What would you do if you got an email from Bill Gates' executive secretary saying that Mr. Gates was in town later in the month and wanted to meet you for 90 minutes? Well, you'd probably mark it as spam and go about your day, right? That's exactly what Donald Sadoway did. Luckily, they mailed him again in 10 days or so. And this time, instead of assuming one of his students was trying to prank him, he actually showed it to some people who said, "What's wrong with you?" and got him to set up a meeting. Now, the reason Bill Gates wanted to meet this professor was that he had been watching his lecture series on solid-state chemistry. Bill Gates had watched every single one of his videos. Why? Because Bill Gates was one of the first people to realize the dangers of climate change. And he knew that if he wanted a grid based on renewables, there needed to be a miracle in battery storage. So when they finally did meet, Gates asked Professor Sadoway what he was working on. And he quickly sketched out an idea that might one day make large-scale grid storage possible. Electricity production accounts for 25% of global carbon emissions. With renewables getting extremely cheap, they're a great candidate for decarbonization of the grid. Wärtsilä, an energy and marine systems company, has this amazing atlas where you can see what renewable resource is ideal for which region. But there's a catch. Two things need to happen if you want a grid reliant on renewables. One part is overbuilding your renewable facilities. You need to build them around twice the region's peak load. And you also must have gas-powered plants that can spin up their turbines during times when renewables are scarce. Along with that comes a requirement for batteries. And if you're completely against any major fossil fuel burning power plants, then for example, in case of Germany, you'd have to build solar to 4 times peak load and have 10 times as much energy stored in batteries. I specifically chose Germany because they're at the forefront of using renewables to mitigate climate change. And they've managed a 15% reduction in the last decade. The price for that achievement is having the highest rates of electricity of pretty much any country out there. And keep in mind that this price is helped by the availability of cheap natural gas. But Germany is a very rich country. Their citizens can absorb more cost without it affecting the country's economy or development. We in India cannot raise electricity prices that way because electricity equals education, jobs, internet, manufacturing, and a healthy middle class. We can't be the ones to foot the bill for climate change when our per capita carbon emissions are some of the lowest in the world. And the same holds true of China to a lesser extent. Us too being the largest carbon emitters overall means that the problem is intractable unless battery storage becomes really cheap and widely available. In his sketch, Donald Sadoway described a liquid metal battery that would be made from earth-abundant materials. No platinum electrodes or mining the moon for helium-3 involved. In his own words, if you want to make something dirt cheap, make it from dirt. A fair point, considering that today's computational era may not have been possible had the most common component not been silicon. Sadoway also understood the fact that an energy storage technology that came in really expensive with the promise to become cheaper at scale would never scale because nobody would buy it. So he built in the constraint that whatever solution they researched should be competitive not with other batteries but with energy storage methods like pumped hydro. Yet another condition for him was that the batteries should be designed to be mass manufactured. We're all veterans of the graphene era, where lots of incredible materials and properties were promised but almost never made it out of the lab. Turns out that single atom thick layers are hard to make at scale. Who'd have thunk? With all of this, he's set to work with a team of students. And a couple of years after his meeting with Gates, he and his students had published a paper on the liquid metal battery. As soon as they took the developed idea to him, Bill Gates funded the startup that grew out of this research, and Ambria was well on its way. Let's see why this battery was so unique and so useful. In the liquid metal battery, you have 3 layers. The cathode is the heavier element, in this case, antimony. The magnesium wants to cozy up to the antimony. Why? I don't know. Electrochemical theories? I'm sorry, that's the best I can do for now. So yeah, it wants to be with the antimony, but it can't pass through the electrolyte. So it ditches its electrons and moves through the electrolyte disguised as an ion. The electrons move through an external circuit and neutralize magnesium cations, where they settle into an alloy with antimony. So as the battery discharges, the amount of magnesium reduces and the bottommost layer gets thicker. When you have to charge it up again, you apply an electric field using external current to coax the magnesium ions back through the electrolyte, and the anode thus replenishes. Now, solid anodes and cathodes like those in the lithium-ion batteries have memory, in the sense that if a lithium ion was particularly rough during a charge or discharge cycle, then the damage remains. And this causes a phenomenon called fade, causing the battery to slowly lose its capacity over time, which is probably not all that relevant for mobile devices, since we throw them out after a few years anyway. And for electric cars, they restrict the charging and discharging to 90% or less of maximum capacity in order to mitigate this effect. But for grid-scale energy storage, longevity is definitely an important consideration. The benefit of a liquid metal battery is that since they do not have a complex lattice structure, they have no memory. After each cycle of charge and discharge, the cell goes back to exactly what it was before. You might be thinking that surely there must be some component in this whole system that undergoes irreversible reactions. But in their testing, they found that the battery retained its maximum capacity even after 5,000 cycles. The fade was absolutely negligible. Another thing with lithium-ion batteries is occasionally they tend to catch fire and explode. This is quite dangerous for tiny smartphone batteries. But when you scale it up to utility, it's a huge problem. It necessitates cooling systems, fire suppression systems, etc. for any grid-scale solution. Liquid metal batteries, on the other hand, need high temperatures. Because the metals and salts in it need to be in molten state, heat is good. The DC-DC round-trip efficiency is claimed to be 80%, and that exceeds the rates of even pumped hydro. I was a little skeptical. Like, maybe the total number is 80% and a bunch of it probably goes to heat the battery to operating temperatures. But no, 80% efficiency is after taking into account the energy required for heating. That is really competitive. And to top it all off, it can be charged and recharged at very high rates because the cathode and anode don't get damaged because they're liquid. Have you ever tried punching water? It's not very effective. But are these batteries cheaper than lithium-ion? Scores of retired EV batteries could be repurposed for grid-scale storage after all, and economies of scale are already driving the price of new batteries further down. Well, in terms of just materials, the cost is around a third of lithium-ion batteries. The casing, etc., I'm not sure about, but steel isn't all that expensive, is it? Manufacturing liquid metal batteries is also simpler than lithium-ion batteries. Based on this, Ambria estimates that they will be able to manage similar storage capacity at half price. I am taking these numbers from their website, so keep your molten salt shakers handy. Okay, it's finally time where we talk about the negatives. The arch enemy of liquid metal batteries is slopes. It's liquid, so if you tilt it, everything might get mixed up. Okay, those are easily avoided. But what about earthquakes and giants stubbing their toes? Well, if the battery short circuits, there will be an immense discharge of heat, but which will still not be enough to melt the steel casing. The battery will eventually go down to room temperature, but will now be useless, I think. Actually, no. If you heat it back up, the metals will melt and it'll reconfigure itself back to its original form. That's why the fact that it is liquid is so crucial. The other downside is that it needs to be cycled through a full charge and discharge cycle every 2 days. So things like seasonal storage are not for consideration, but they are perfect for backing up solar power. Sun goes down, batteries ramp up, go through a full discharge till the sun comes up again, and then begin charging. More usage is better for these batteries as opposed to the lithium-ion batteries, which suffer fade with more use. So, impressing Bill Gates, founding his own company, being named in the Times 100 Most Influential People of 2012, giving a TED Talk that was viewed 750,000 times, and publishing a paper in Nature, the journal. But where is Ambria now? Initially planning to launch their batteries in 2016, they were not able to reach the technological or price points that they had aimed for, and as a consequence, had to lay off 14 employees, around a quarter of their workforce. But I'm happy to say that they have persisted and have now closed a deal to back up a 3,500-acre data center operated by TerraScale. The battery will provide a massive 250 megawatt-hour storage and will work in conjunction with a 500 megawatt solar power plant. Their chemistry has evolved a bit, and they're using calcium alloy for the anode and solid antimony particles for the cathode. Donald Sadoway has also kept his promise of making the battery keeping its end purpose in mind. The cell is in a steel container, many of which are packaged together into a module designed to fit into a storage container. While being transported, the battery is at room temperature and thus cannot store or discharge any energy, making it completely safe. Because of the nature of the batteries, it works well in hot places, like, here. Rewa Power Plant could maybe use one of these. As more projects go live, we will get a better understanding of how well this technology works in commercial applications and at what price. So this is a story of the heterodox professor who inspired Bill Gates with his online lectures and founded his own company in a quest to capture the wind and the sun. More than anything, Dr. Sadoway's enthusiasm is absolutely infectious. You should really watch the lectures that led to all this. I'll link them below. Let's keep our fingers crossed that he accomplishes all that he set out to do. And to help him do that, share this video so people know that Ambri Energy is alive and kicking. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a like or start a conversation below to get more videos like this in your recommendations. I'll come back with another video next week. See you soon. Is antimony really all that abundant? How come I've never seen it or heard about it? I feel like I'm being gaslit here.